Okay, so let's be mamshech in Hilchos Bishul, and just I want to give a few hagduras. Hagduras before we start, because we're going to have a couple of shiurim on Hilchos Bishul, and we should know the klolim. Hagduras the klolim. Now, in Hilchos Bishul, there's a lot of things which you have to know first. There's such a thing as a kli rishon, kli sheni, kli shlishi, iru, iri kli rishon, iri kli sheni, iri kli shlishi. All those things is going to be negeya. What is a kli rishon? Kli rishon means the thing in what it was cooked. You cook a soup in a pot. That pot is a kli rishon. The food is in the pot is also a kli rishon. Even when you took it off from the fire, it's still a kli rishon. It's still a kli rishon as long as there is yat soildos boy. It's still hot, which yat soildos boy be'erech is about 100, between 105, 110, depends in the poiskim, Fahrenheit. That is, as long as it is in the pot which it was cooked, that is considered kli rishon. Which there is a halachas in kli rishon. Then there is such thing as kli sheni. Kli sheni means it's not in the pot which was cooked. It was poured over in a second pot or in a plate. The second plate is already called a kli sheni, which has different halachas of kli rishon. And the reason because of that is because the walls of the kli sheni is cold. Automatically, it makes cold the food which is in a kli sheni. Then there's a kli shlishi. That means you pour it into a kli sheni. Then from the kli sheni you put it into a kli shlishi. Now, this is a third shlaf, because now we went through two plates, which was called walls, where the walls are cold. So automatically, it cooled it off a little bit more. So that's kli shlishi. The same goes, kli shrevi, chamishi. Whenever you add on in different kalim, it gets, so to speak, gets more colder. Then there's such thing as iru. Iru means you have a pot, which it was cooked. In the pot, it was cooked soup. And you pour from the soup, hot chicken soup, you're pouring on a food which is in a second, kli sheni. That means you have noodles, or you have what is it called?
Oatmeal.
No, you have croutons. You have croutons in the pot, and you pour from kli rishon on that. That's called iri kli rishon. That's iri kli rishon because it's not in the pot which was cooked. It's already went through the air, which is basically a little bit cold. And that's called iri kli rishon. The food is from iri kli rishon. Now, if you put it in as a kli sheni, and then you pour it in on a kli shlishi, which has croutons, so that means the soup which went on top on the croutons, that's iri kli sheni.
What's a kli sheni? The ladle?
Kli sheni is, we'll get to that if a ladle is a kli sheni. But akapurim kli sheni means if you take out from the pot which it was cooked, you put it into a bowl, that's kli sheni. A lot of people have serving bowls, so they put in the soup in a serving bowl, that's kli sheni. Then when they put in the soup into the plate, that's another kli shlishi. Once the kli shlishi, there's a lot of killers what you can do. Now he brought up, I think, which we'll get in more details later, is a ladle also a kli sheni? And the answer is, at least the first one, yes, because it's still cold. And once you start putting it in once and twice, so automatically the walls become hot. We are machma like the shittas hamarshal, that is considered kli rishon. But like one of the first one, at least, you could say it is kli sheni, because it still have the cold walls. So again, so we have kli rishon, kli sheni, kli shlishi. Then we have iri kli rishon, iri kli sheni, iri kli shlishi, and all these things are going to be nagaya eventually.
Kli shlishi is such a thing?
There's iri shlishi also, of course, if it is a kli shlishi, yeah. Then there is also, we have to, there's such thing as duvar yovash and duvar lach. Duvar yovash means a thing which is dry. Yeah, you have a kugel which is dry. You have a piece of meat. Yeah. A schnitzel which is dry, and then you have a duvalach means something which has liquid in it. It could be a thing which is basically also has dry, but basically has liquid, some liquid. That's called lach, because you have liquid over there. A dry thing, it is called duvayuvish, and there's also going to be negaya. I'm giving you just the klulam. It's negaya down the road. What it is, all these things. Okay. Now another thing, bishul is anything which you cook, even though it is edible. If you take fruit, vegetables, which is edible, and you cook it, it's still considered cooking. Although you can eat it other than that, it's still considered cooking. Made it better, now you cooked it. Take an apple, you make an apple, yes, you're over of Isra. You take water which you could drink, you cook it up, you make it hot, then you're over of Isra. It has nothing to do that you made it, it should be edible or not. No difference. Another thing is we have to understand, bishul can also mean a thing which you don't see. For instance, you have a towel which is wet, after the mikveh, you take this towel, you put it on top of the radiator, and becomes yatzal this boy, you're over bishul. Because the water which is basically absorbed in the towel becomes cooked, and there's a bishul. So this also we have to realize as the sushing is a bishul. Because of the water which is inside is absorbed, which is wet, which is not as a liquid, becomes cooked. Another thing which is also means that it is bishul, as I mentioned last week, and I want to continue this week a little bit to begin with that piece, is you have something which is it's a solid thing, and you make it through heat, it should become liquid. That is also that's also bishul. And the same will be vice versa. If you have a liquid, and by cooking it will become solid, that's also going to become. So for instance, you have metal. You have a piece of metal, a piece of a knife, let's say, or a crowbar, and you put it in a very hot fire. And when it comes to a very high heat, it becomes dissolved. It becomes it becomes liquid. That's inyan of bishul. As the Rambam says, the lotion, hamatiches hamatchis, somebody dilutes the matchis, barzel, iron. Chayev, is a chayev. Favuz, because he took gif kusher, a solid thing, and he made it should become soft, automatically, that is inyan from bishul. The Rambam says this in from bishul. Now, I want to address a very interesting thing. Before we start going into bishul pashat and halachas, which is the common shailas, I want to go into a very interesting shaila, which the poskim have a big shmiz, a big machloikis in it, and see how we go with that. Now, metal, the Rambam says a person takes metal and makes it, puts it into the fire, and automatically it becomes soft. It doesn't have to become a liquid. It becomes soft, that will be also enough. And that's also considered bishul, as we mentioned, that's also considered bishul. That's number one. I'll go further. When a person has a metal, puts it into the fire, it becomes soft. That's bishul. Now we have a klal, I'm bishul acha bishul. We're going to get into it more details eventually. I'm bishul acha bishul. That means you have something which was cooked, and you cook it again. You're not over for isa bishul. You have a piece of schnitzel, a piece of raw meat. You cooked it before Shabbos. Now it's a dry thing. You take it, you put it on top of a other pot, on top of a pot, because you cannot put it on top of the aish itself, because that's extra halucha, separate halucha of chazura. But you put it on top of a pot of chicken soup, it becomes yat soldas boy. Before it was cold, took it out of the refrigerator, cold. You put it on top of the pot, and it becomes hot. There's not a problem halachadli. Why? Because this was cooked already. I'm bishul acha bishul, and therefore it's not a problem. But that's only when it is yuvish, when it's dry. Once it is not dry, once it is a lach, it's a liquid, you have cold water. And you cooked it before Shabbos, and now it became cold again. If you're going to make it yat soldas by in Shabbos, you're chayiv. Because only by yuvish we say I'm bishul acha bishul, not by lach. Again, we're going to get into this more details, Mi'ez Hashem, in the upcoming shiurim. So that's the chilik of yuvash, and that's the Indian of lach. Yuvash, ein bishlach a bishel. Lach yesh bishlach a bishel. Now, let's go now to what we said. If somebody has a metal, which is hard, you make it soft, yeah, and then after a while you leave it, let's say 5 hours, becomes strict hard, yeah, it loses the Indian, the hotness, becomes strict hard. Now I'm going to put it again into the fire, and it's going to become soft again. Is this ein bishlach habishel, like we said, a yuvash ein bishlach or not? Or there is a problem of bishlach habishel? And the answer is yes. It is chayv chatas. A person has a knife, puts it into the fire, and becomes soft, or any metal which is going to become soft, and then it becomes back hard, then you're going to put it in again into the fire. It is, again, the Indian of your over. And we don't say I'm bishlach habishel, although it's a yuvash, and I'm going to explain, it's very important to understand the explanation, and then you can know how to use it down the road. Why is it that baduva yuvash ein bishlach habishel, in balach there is the bishlach habishel? Hot water, if it became cold, you cook it up again, you chayv chatas. Why by yuvash not? You take out from a refrigerator, piece of meat, you boil you put it on top and it becomes hot, it's not bishlach habishel. And the answer is very simple. Bishul does a thing. By a duva yuvash, when you take a piece of steak, you take any food, and you cook it, now it's cooked. It's a cooked piece. That means the bishul is constantly in this food. Before it was a raw. Now it became a thing which it's cooked. It became cooked, and this cooked is always going to be. 5 weeks from now, it's still a meat which is cooked. Yeah. When it comes to liquid, what does it mean cooking? You take water, you boil it. What does it mean cooking? Cooking means it became hot. The ganze material became hot. Before it was cold water, now it became hot water. Once it becomes cold again, basically, what happens? You don't see anything in the bishul didn't do. There's no bishul over here. By a thing which became a yuvash which became cooked. Now, since it's cooked, it always stays a cooked piece of meat, a cooked piece of apple. You bake the apple. It's always a baked apple. It doesn't come back to what it was. But when it comes to alach, it loses the Indian abishul. The whole concept of bishul loses once it becomes cold. So therefore, balach there's du mishlach abishul, because the whole concept is to make it warm, and you need a coffee. You have cold water, you cooked it before Shabbos, fine. Now it became cold again, you cannot use it for coffee, it's regular cold water. In order it should be able to make a coffee or a tea, you have to cook it. So automatically, every time you cook it, there's a pe'il of bishul. Therefore, by lach, there's no such a thing that I'm bishlach bishul. And once you did it once, even if you cooked it once, you are still going to have oivazan of ha'isa. The same is also with a metal. You have a metal which became soft. Yeah, we said became soft is ha'isa d'raisa. But now it became hard again. And you make it soft again. Is du bishlach bishul? According to what we explained before. Is du bishlach bishul? Of course. Because the first bishul, is gone. When you take a metal and you put it into fire, it becomes soft. So the bishul did something into this knife. But once it became hard again, it's the same as before bishul the first time. So the whole bishul went away. The bishul doesn't stay. Whenever the bishul doesn't stay, and you cook it up again, is yesh bishlach bishul, as I mentioned by lach. The whole Indian of lach is, whenever the bishul is constantly in this thing which I did, it stays a cooked food, or America, bishlach bishul. It's already done already. You warm it, it's not bishul, because the bishul is still here. Whenever the bishul gets blown away, because it became cold, by lach it is usually, or even my metal, it became hard again, so yesh bishlach bishul. So again, therefore, a person takes a metal and makes it soft, even it was already once done the same thing, is yesh bishlach bishul, over isa d'raisa. What is the poshtarai of it? Because the Rambam says, amatches, somebody makes soft matches, then the Rambam mechayev chatas. Wait a minute. Every metal was once cooked. To make a hammer, to make a knife, you had to have a metal and shape it. And how did you shape it to make it a knife? You had to boil it, it should become soft, and you should be able to make it a knife. So why when you take a knife, or you take a matches and you make it, you warm it up, there is chayev. It was already once cooked, once so to speak, hot. Akachach we see metal, even when it is basically once this bashal, that means it became from hard soft. Since it became back hard, is dua iser. Yeah, this is the thing which we have to realize. Another thing we have to realize, if something makes a thing which is hard to soft, even if it's yat saldas, but it is bishul. For instance, a person takes chaylev, takes wax, puts it right next to the fire. It will not become yat saldas boy, but it will become a liquid. That's called bishul. So Premugudum says, even if it's not yat saldas, but it's a chiddush. But because the peila tzchugiti. So these are the two akdumas which I wanted to make. You should remember. You can ask me, why are we talking so much about taking a metal in who's a iron worker? Nobody's an iron worker. What is it as nagaya? Again, my shir, I'm trying to focus always in practical things. What does it have here? Because I want to come to a very important noisa. There is metal has a very high degree it should become soft. Yeah, we have a mechanic. He knows if you want to those, you have to very high. There's one metal. There's 6 metals which the Torah brings. Achazazua, Vesakesa, Vesabadil, Vesaferes. Yeah, the 6 metals which we all know. It's Negaya also when it comes to Tfilas Kailim. These are the 6 metal. That's why it's in Torah. Kaila, which is made from the 6 metals, is Chiv Tfilim in Torah. But there's one metal which has unique, which becomes, put it room temperature. It's a liquid. It's a liquid. What is it? Mercury. Mercury, anybody knows what mercury is? All the thermostats, what used to be, the old thermostat used to be mercury. The silver liquid. And you know where we use mercury? Yeah, that's for a mechanic. I'm talking in our life. We see the guy, this whole halacha is going to be the guy. Tamamara. And I want to get to this nikida. Can we use Shabbos a thermometer, the old kind of thermometers which we still in use? Which over here, how does the thermometer work? Thermometer has a piece of mercury. When it becomes a little bit warm, you put it in the temperature of your mouth, which is a little bit warmer than room temperature. It expands. Yeah? It expands. Now there's a sufuk, the poskim speak, they have a sufuk. If it also not only expands, it becomes a little bit more liquidy. That's why does it expand? Because it becomes more liquidy. Can we use a thermometer on Shabbos or not? If we say hamatches amatches, you make a hard soft or harder softer, it is aser mishim. The Rambam says it aser mishim avashel. Maybe there should be a problem, and you shouldn't be allowed to use a thermometer, this old-fashioned thermometer, on Shabbos. And there is poskim which say you shouldn't use it. Rav Sternberg in Chivas Van Hugas writes, you cannot, you only tzorich gudel, choyle, other than that, you cannot use it. Why? Because it goes into the Rambam, hamatches amatches, then you have a problem of bishul. That's why it's in our sigi, because it goes into the gather of bishul. But lamaise, the poskim, let me just come to the end game. I just want to finish before I'm going to get to the Abraham. The psak is we don't pass like that. The psak is that we could use it. But I just want to go through the Nikidas. Why? What is the tzarifim that we could use it? Now, like this is again Rabbi Sternbuch, and there are some other poskim which say you shouldn't use it only tzorich gudel. But lamas haminig oilim is the oilim used this, and yesh lehem amal nismoichi. And I'm going to tell you why. The Mechasitzri has this shaila. And the Mechasitzrak has a famous, anybody who's in Oilam Halucha knows the Chelkes Yankov. He was the Ravish in Switzerland. He was a big Talmud. He was a Mechit of Mechasitzrak. They both talk about this Nakida. Now again, that time at least, it wasn't clear if the mercury becomes from harder, softer because of the heat. So there you're going to get the problem of Bishul. Now, if it only expands and nothing changes in the context of the mercury, then there's no problem. There's no shala. It's not a bishal of Bishul. Bishul is only when you have something which is hard, you make it softer. So if you have the mercury become softer, then it's a problem of Bishul. If it only expands by heat, but it doesn't change the context of the thing, then we have no issue, b'chlal, hakle moidem, that it should be a problem because there's no Bishul. But let's assume, even if we are going to say taka, that the mercury, when it expands, it becomes a little bit more softer. So automatically you have a mercury, a metal. The Rambam says a metal, a matches becomes a little bit more softer. Is this a problem? Now the question is, first of all, who says that this tiny drop, which it is mercury, by the way, is a liquid. It's not a solid. It's a thick solid. It's like a little bit like honey. It's 13 times thicker than water. That's how the count is. 13 times. So, but it's a liquid. So Maichet Haisa, even though it becomes a little bit more softer, Zukt of them the Poiskim, Maichet Haisa, this is considered Hamatches as a matches. Maybe only a thing which is solid becomes loose, becomes a liquid. That's a problem of matches and matches. But when it is something which does not get, it is before also a liquid, and it stays a liquid. It's only with the context change, it becomes a little bit more diluted. Maichet Haisa, there is a problem of the Rambam, which the Rambam says, somebody who dilutes, makes soft. This goes also into this Nikida. That's one of the things which the Poskim want to say. Another thing they want to say. Again, first of all, Maichet Haisa, it becomes diluted. Maybe it just only expands because of the heat. It doesn't get diluted. And even if it gets diluted, Maichet Haisa, that this drop, which becomes a little bit more liquidy, that should be a problem, which the Rambam means hamatches. Maybe it's only when it's a solid, you have matches, a piece of metal, becomes liquid, then it's a problem. Other than that, Maichet Haisa, that is a problem. Another thing which we could add on to it. And so last week we elaborated that the halacha is Bishul is only on Eish or Toldos Eish. Yeah, remember? On fire or Toldos Eier. If somebody cooks on the sun, he takes an egg, puts it out on the street, and the egg and the sun boils the egg, it's mitzvah lekitchila. A person can do it. The person reminded himself, this Shabbos I forgot to make ayim tzibala, but the Chassidim, ayim tzibala, the Bashem Tov said we should onion and an egg. He realized, I don't have an egg. So he takes a glass of water, puts in an egg, puts it outside, outside on the street, hot egg, room temperature, tamas off, by Nizmana, which is really hot, gets cooked, like as I mentioned last week, like you see, Rahman al-Islam, children which stay in the car, gets cooked. So Rahman al-Islam, we shouldn't know of these things. You can do it. Toldos Chama is osir midrabunan. That means if you have something which was cooked, water became water or a pot. You take a frying pan, you put it outside on the street, and the sun makes it hot. Now you open up an egg and you want to make a scrambled egg. That's called Toldos Chama. Is also midrabunan. Why is it also midrabunan? As I mentioned last week, we mentioned it. Because Alter Rebbe explains it very clearly, very nicely. We are afraid people will not know. People will see that you have a frying pan, and you cook frying pan eggs in Shabbos. So he is not going to know yet that this frying pan became hot through the sun. He's thinking, maybe this frying pan became hot through fire. So therefore, Ab Chazal gesucht that I don't want people should think, because we have to remember, when we are not a person, today's day, the attitude is, live and let live. Don't tell me what to do. It's my. Chazal did not. In Baklal Yisrael, in Torah Shechanor, there's no such a thing. You have achrayas for someone else. The same as you cannot drill in your room in the ship. It's my harum, I paid for it, and I want to make a hole inside. It doesn't work like that. It's a collective. The same thing as Chazal. said, I'm afraid somebody else is going to learn something which is over of Isser, it's your achrayis, arvas. So Zug the Chazal, if you're going to take a frying pan, put it outside, we are going to think that basically it became hot through a fire. Therefore, it told us, Chama is also with Rabuna. Okay? So now, Zukt of them, the Chelkes Yankov, wait a minute. Putting in a thermometer in your mouth, for instance, or in your body, wherever you put it in, is loy gura v'chama, or even told us chama. Even when I want to say it's told us chama, it's still only a drabonon. So take it out from the rice first of all. So it's loy gura from a chama. That means they learned that even if what did they say? That means like this. They felt that the mouth is a toldos chama. It's not chama. It's toldos chama because the body, let's say, is considered chama. The mouth gets heated by the heat of the body. So therefore, that's a tolda. So they call it toldos chama. Look at the Chelkes Yankov. Wait a minute. First of all, it's not a deraisa also. It's only a drabonon because it's toldos chama. So therefore, okay, mach ich kein Gewalt. It's only toldos chama. So therefore. Maybe gur is chama, but akbun toldos chama, minimum toldos chama. Akbun the rice is a shoinish. So therefore the Mechas Yaakov. So again, with all the tzrifim which we have, we talk about Oshi Isi Drabunan. No. Nicht Isi Drabunan is nothing, but Isi Drabunan, and we have a suffix. Maybe it doesn't bechlal get soft because it is only expands. It doesn't get soft, and even it gets soft. Maybe this tiny drop again. This all the tzrifim together. So what is the big deal? What is it? Kim the Chivas Van Huges, as I mentioned, Moshe Sternbach, and he holds his osir. He says, what kind of business is Toldos Chama? So he said, Zukter Sof Kosof, why is Toldos Chama only with Rabbonan? Zukter Rasha, last week we brought it down. Toldos Chama is also with Rabbonan because ein derech lavashel bakach. Yeah, this Rasha says. Rasha says, that's not the derech. Toldos Chama is not the derech, it's only with Rabbonan. Zukter, the Chivas Van Huges, but this is the derech. That's the derech to take a thermometer, put it in the mouth. That's the derech Bischel. So therefore, it's your problem, your user. Which doesn't make sense. What? Oh, it doesn't make sense being a posh the Sache. Let's assume Taka, that's called derech. Why is Toldos Chama b'chal user? We just said before, because we are afraid, if you're going to let Toldos Chama, you're going to frying pan which became hot by the sun, yeah? People will think it became hot by fire. They're not going to know. But when you put on a thermometer in your mouth, let's assume it's only Toldos Chama. But wait a minute. What? There's no gezaire. Nobody cooks that way. So in this specific case, even if it's Toldos Chama, which Toldos Chama is usim drabun, in such case, it's not a problem. That's number one. Number two, so Moshe Sternbach wants to say, it is the derech, because that's the derech how to make it in the mouth. Is this the derech how to dilute mercury b'chalal? Mercury b'chalal, they have the companies who make mercury for whatever they even need it, when they want it should become a soft, they have ovens for that. We use this patent that has such a low heating. We use it for a thermometer. But even if the thermometer in your mouth, that's normal to do, but you cannot say that mercury at a whole is derech bishul bakach. It's one prat is derech bishul. Remember last week I brought Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer writes that the kitach habavli was some kind of dip that they used to make. Somebody gave the name. What is it called? You gave last week the name. Huh? Somebody gave last week, today's day also. Kitach is they have sour milk and they have bread putting it into it, and it's a dip. It's sharp. It's some kind of sharp. Somebody last week said that it's called Swiss. I don't remember what. Something it is. It has cheese in it. It is a whole gemachach and it's sharp. Over there they put in bread. This bread is not regular bread. It's bread which is baked by the sun. This is how the recipe how it goes. Bread, that's the derech. So Chassam Sofer, wait a minute. So maybe, why did Chazal say chama, you can do chama because it's not a derech? Why did Chazal say that Toldos Chama is a drabunan? Wait a minute, it is the derech. This bread which you use for kitach is made but baked through the sun. So we don't look at one item. If you find one item that you have to use the sun for making the recipe, that doesn't mean that that's the derech. Bechlal. With the sun, it's not the derech to use. That's why I remember I brought this regarding the halacha. If today's day there's somebody who bakes a potato in a microwave, but since you don't cook in a microwave, even you have some people who will cook a potato, but that's not derech bishul. As of today, it's not derech bishul. It's 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. And the people do not cook some items. So that's why I wanted to say, remember, Moshe Feinstein wants to say that microwave cooking, Shabbos and microwave is adaraisa, which the Achronim say no, it's only a drabunan. Why? Because it's not derech bishul b'kach. It's a drabunan, but I'm derech bishul b'kach. Although could be a potato people are baking, but you don't look at one item. So then I brought the Chassam Sofer, which we see bread which was baked by the sun. That's the norm in African. It's mutter. It goes into Kitachram when it's mutter because I'm derech bishul b'kach. So let's go now to our shala. When you have a thermometer, although the derech of the thermometer is this is how you cook it. You put it in your mouth and it becomes soft. Mamayla is your derech bishul b'kach. Yeah, let's assume it is like that. But again, that's not derech. It's not a derech. So automatically, it cannot be a ised raisa for sure not. So therefore, let's make it clear. So we have 3 reasons why it's not a problem. First problem, I think, is, first of all, who tells you b'chalal there's any cooking? Maybe it's only, it expands, but it doesn't get hot. Second of all, even if it does get hot and it gets a little bit softer, my chetaisa that's getting softer, so this drop is a problem. Number 3, which we mentioned, it's like derech chama. It's not the derech. So it's not decided how to cook it. It's not aledai aish. So therefore, it is not a problem. So therefore, zug the Mechas Yitzchak, zug the Chelkes Yankov, it is not a problem to use this thermometer in Shabbos, and this is how we are passing, by the way, not like the Chivas and Rugas, which holds this a problem. It's now interesting to note the Shal Hashivas Marie Steif. The Björn Steif was, after the war, one of the biggest poiskim in America by the Chassidish Oilem. He used to live in Wilhelmsburg. He was the Ruv of Wien, and his name he has a Shal Marie Steif. So he has a cute. I'm just bringing it for the cuteness. He wants to say the whole Shal, if it is putting it into the mouth, is told us Chama, told us Aish. He has a raya that putting into your mouth, it is told us Aish. Why is his raya told us Aish, not told us Chama? He says that the Shluach Kudish writes that somebody who gets angry on Shabbos is over of a Issa, the Reise, the Safari, Aish B'chol Mishas Eichen. Your body becomes hot, as the Shluach Kudish. Shluach Kudish. If you get angry on Shabbos, then Zukt of them the Gemara, Zukt of them as Zukt the Shlu is over of a Issa, Safari, Aish B'chol Mishas Eichen. Wait a minute. The Safari, Aish B'chol Mishas Eichen is Mashmas Aish. So we see now that the body, human's body, is considered Aish, and it's not considered Toldos Chama.
2 questions. One is measuring a problem on Shabbos.
We'll get a minute. We'll get to
Because our thermometers nowadays, mercury is poisonous. We don't use mercury, but we use like alcohol. So that's for sure.
we use mercury. The glass ones have mercury.
It's poisonous.
Now they're
We're not
using
gonna use it.
alcohol.
Alcohol. Oh, okay.
It's the same thing. It expands.
Okay. So maybe it has the same. Yeah, but alcohol basically Bechral doesn't expand. So there's no problem. Yeah. More even I didn't know that. I thought it's still. I still have the old ones. I still have in my house with all these things. It's. So again. Let me just continue. Let me just continue. So this is what the Shlush says. So this is what the Shlush said. The Shlush says it is Aish. But the answer to this is it doesn't mean literally, because a very simple reason. The Gemara says that if somebody tears a beged b'chamusoi, he's angry, and he tears his beged b'chamusoi, the Gemara has a whole shaila. If it is it's a mischayiv, the Gemara is misputer. Why? It's on my kalk. He tore his beged. Now karaya is a ised daraisa. He got angry and he tore his beged. Yeah, is there over ised daraisa? Gemara 9 is over nor ised rabun is on my kalk. So therefore, this can ised daraisa. Wait a minute. but he got angry. And if he got angry, he got in kas. So if he got in kas, it was over Issa D'Oraisa. The Gemara says only under Munan. So again, we see, he himself says this. He, Rabbi Yonasan himself says, although I just wanted to say, first I wanted to say, it is a problem, Issa D'Oraisa, but then he says, we see from this Gemara, that it's not Issa D'Oraisa, because if the Gemara would have said, the Gemara says it's not Issa D'Rabunan, it should have been Issa D'Oraisa because we get angry. So therefore, it is not it's not an issue. Another thing, which Chalkisanka wants to say that when you take this thermometer and you put it in your mouth, and let's say it becomes softer, but it becomes softer, a thing which is not yet sold as boy. Yeah, it becomes not sold as boy. So Bishul has to be with something which is not sold as boy, not Bishul, which is not yet sold. This is what he wants to say. It's interesting that the Pri Megudim, remember, we started the sheet, one of the Akdumas said, the Pri Megudim wants to say that if you take a piece of wax and you put it next to the fire, which the wax does not become yet sold as boy, but it becomes liquid, it dissolves, whatever it melts. Zukte dem Pri Megudim is my over of Bishul. Now, it didn't become yet sold as boy. Why is it Isra of Bishul? So first of all, we see that you could have a problem of Bishul even if it's not sold as boy, which is basically a chiddush. But we could also say that it's only by wax, because wax you put it right next to fire. So since the fire is yet sold as boy, although this is not yet sold as boy, although the wax doesn't become yet sold as boy, but it becomes liquidy through a fire which yet sold as boy. So therefore, the Pri Megudim says that's a problem. But when you're talking about this mercury, where you put it in the mouth, with the whole body is not yet sold as boy. The body is not sold, the mouth is not sold as boy. Maybe in such a case, the Pri Megudim did not say that it is a problem. So therefore, Ayois Rudim calls there. This Ashala, which is Negaya, again, today is not Negaya like Rabbi Yehuda says, today you don't use it, but till a few years ago, and again, I still have these old thermometers in my house, so we're still using it. I don't know it's dangerous. But I thought it's dangerous only when it breaks. Oh. Yeah. Akapo, now, Ayois Rudim calls there, we pass like the Chalkes Yankiv, like the Mechas Yitzchak, not like the Moshe Sternberg in Chiv Danugas, and you could use a thermometer for a choyle, you could use it because it's not a problem of Bishul. Because they, again, what do we say? Because they have a suffix, maybe it's only expensive, it doesn't become hot. So Baruch Hashem, today's day, you can everything Google. So I asked this question. Does mercury, which becomes, put it in the mouth, and expands, does it become more liquidy, or the content is the same, only it expands? Now the Mechas Yitzchak writes, I asked Mimchem, and I couldn't get to a clear answer. Rebbe Google today's day says that basically it does not get diluted. It does not get softer. It is only expands. So the whole shaila doesn't begin. If Rebbe Google is right, again, today's day you have to be very careful. What? But this, you agree with Google. Okay, this is what they said. So automatically, this whole shaila is not so much regarding this thing. It does not. But again, I wanted to bring it out because Sof Kesov is Negaya for ins. We should know as if somebody has such a thing. Now, Rabbi Yehuda brought up. No, Rabbi Yehuda brought up. Is the problem? Maybe there's other problem of measuring in Shabbos. There's a issue to measure on the Shabbos. Yes? Also limited by Shabbos. Only letzoirach mitzvah, you could do a person needs to use a mikveh, and he doesn't know if it has memsu. So therefore, you could measure the mikveh to see if it has memsu. A person needs to see, Rahman al-Islam, there's a mace in a room, and you don't want that it should go over to other house, and there's a hole. You want to measure if it has Pesach Tefach Hamach. You could measure. Anything which is a tzorech mitzvah, you are allowed to measure. Or a tzorech choyle. So the question is, if he asks, could you, like you ask, could you measure, you have a child, you want to see his temperature, if he has fever, he's a choyle. So basically the question doesn't begin. And the Elia Rabbah Tilal says not only has to be a choile shayim baskuna, which is also kvar adarga, even a mitzvah has a headache. In such a case, is also not a problem of medida. So to answer this question, can you use the samamar als medida? The answer is, since medida shel mitzvah is mutter, since medida a choile is mutter, and not only a choile, even a mitzvah is mutter. So therefore, according to the Rabbah Tilal even a mitzvah is ochet, not a problem. Why? Because the whole medida is a very schwache hissa. So therefore, any time when we have a tzoyrech, which is again tzoyrech mitzvah, tzoyrech choile, which again choile goes in this category, only in this category, even a mitzvah, it's not a problem of medida, and therefore you could check it. But could I check? I want to check. I'm not a choile. I want to check other reasons, because there are other reasons which women will check their temperature for their reasons. So therefore, could you do it? It's not a choile, it's not mitzvah. Could you do it also in that? Could you or not? And the answer will be, Reb Shlomo Zalman wants to write in Mecha Shlomo, it's not a problem. Even for fun, you could measure your fever. Even for fun. That in Kolshkin when you have any tzorech, but even you don't have to be a choile, even a mitzvah. He says, what is the isser of medida? The isser of medida is ivdin the chol. Yeah, since measuring is a ivdin the chol, it's a weekly thing. So therefore, any measuring, even the chol. Zukt Reb Shlomo Zalman, what kind of measuring is even the chol? A measuring which you could do business with it. The whole thing is even the chol, because when you do business, you weigh apples, you weigh potatoes, you weigh diamonds, you weigh silver, you weigh, in the business world. So that's why Chazal says all the medidas, because it is even the chol, because that's the way how you do business, so therefore it's even the chol. Measuring the temperature of the body has no shaykhs with even the chol of doing business. It has nothing to do with business. It's in the category. So he wants to say that's not even the chol. Even the chol has to be. It's a even the chol. This thing which I'm doing has to do a weekday thing, which all of the measurements. You want to measure a kzais matzah. Or you want to measure how many spices to put in. That's measuring, because in the store also you measure. You sell things, spices you spell on the pound, on the weight. So therefore, that's even the chol. Yontav Megman, Avrak Shabbos is not a problem. But putting in a thermometer in the mouth, which has such a medida, which has no shaykhs medida, which we know the medida of even the chol, Zukim Shem Zalman is not a problem, and even a person wants to measure for fun, he could do it. Going back now to our shaila, there are women which need to check their temperature in specific times. It is not an issue to use it in Shabbos. Now again, if you have today's digital, that's a problem already. That's a issa, because you're going to the electric. But still a problem. Is when you have a choile, which you have a lot, there's something else. A choile is in the Rabuna, going into the Shin Chuvches Shalas. But if you have the old-fashioned, or like he says with alcohol, all these things, the only problem is mitzad medida. It is not a problem to use it. So again, just to sum it up, it's not a problem to use on Shabbos any thermometer which is not electric. You could use it for any reason, even not for a thing which is tzorech mitzvah on your body, and it's not a problem. Okay, next. Let's go to the next. This is I wanted to go over this. This is the kiddush, because last week this is the erste sif in Shulchan Aruch Chasim Shin Yitches, and we should realize that Bishul is not only food. Bishul has a lot of other things too involved. So therefore, people, and this is a thing which is very common. That's why I mentioned it before. People come out from the mikveh. It's winter, and what do? They take the towel, put it on top of a radiator. I'm not talking. It's a problem of Bishul. If it has water inside and it gets cooked, even if I don't see it, so and the same thing is also a thermometer. Be'etzim, what can be a problem. If it would have become soft, could it be a problem of Bishul? So again, we have to, before we do Shabbos or whatever we do, we have to think if there is an issue in what category it goes in. Okay, so now let's go further. The halacha is tafshel shenes bashel called tzorchoi, a tafshel which is fully cooked. A tafshel which is fully cooked. and it is dry, as I mentioned before, there's no bishul. So therefore, again, you have a schnitzel in your refrigerator. You can take it out, put it on top of the cholent pot. It should become hot. You have Friday night warm schnitzel, which became hot by the pot oven. Although it becomes yat soldas boy, it's not a problem, because I'm bishul acha bishul. But it has to be tafshish in his bashel called tzorachui. Has to be fully finished cooked. It cannot be half baked, half cooked, 3/4. Has to be fully cooked. If it was not in his bashel called tzorachui, even though it is nisbashel gewon kamachal ben der Resua, which means even though there was a person, his name was ben der Resua, that was his name. He was a thief. He was the head of the mafia. And he had no time to cook his chicken or his meat well done. Because, he had to run away from the cops. He had to go to the next bank robbery. So he had no time. So he used to cook his food. What is Macham ben Resua? According to Rasha, it is a third bishul. If it is a third bishul, 1/3, that's Macham ben Resua. That's already considered cooked by Gewiss Haluchas. We'll see. According to the Rambam, it has to be half cooked. Now the halacha is, if it is already cooked halfways, for example, bishul akim, it's not a problem because it is already halfway cooked. Or by a lot of other things we're going to see, it's not a problem. But a person, and it comes in Shabbos, a person has food which is cooked already, kamach ben resua. Which when you're talking about kamach ben resua, that means it's halfway cooked. You could eat it. It's considered bishul. And you make it, you have a raw piece of meat, and you bake it, kamacha ben resua, that means half-baked, you're over of Issa Deraisa. You're over Issa Deraisa. But now, okay, I put it Erev Shabbos on the fire, and now it comes the Zman, the Shkia, it's half-cooked. So you will say, since when I put raw, and it becomes kamacha ben resua, it is considered that you cooked, you're over of Issa because you cooked it. It's already cooked. So now, if I have a piece of meat which is half cooked, and I take it off from the fire, and then I put it back on the fire, it's not a problem because it's already cooked, and I'm bishlach bishul. The answer is no. Machlokes Rishonim, let me make it clear. Machlokes Rishonim, the Rashba and some other Rishonim hold that once it becomes Macham ben Resua half cooked, if you are going to make it better, you're going to cook it again, it's not osam in a Torah. But Shittas Rambam, and this is how the Mechaber paskens, even if it's cooked halfway, and you make it, it should cook fully, you are over of Issa Deraisa. This is how the Mechaber paskens. So therefore, we pasken like the Rambam. So therefore, kommt aus a modige Sach. A person has a pot which has cholent in it. And you put it up before Shabbos, let's say half an hour before Shabbos, 20 minutes before Shabbos. By now, comes Shabbos, comes the Shkia or of later, it is cooked halfway. Halfway is very cooked. But as we mentioned now, even when it's cooked halfway, if you make it more, it should be cooked fully, is aser min ha-Torah. If it's fully cooked, which means, what does mean fully cooked? The way how you eat it usually, although it can get better, but it is cooked the way how it should be, then if you make it should cook even better, it's not a problem. But if it is half cooked, and you do any pa'ula, it should become more cooked, over of Issa Deraisa. So therefore, if a person has a sholem, and he has a blech, we have a blech, you can take it off and put it back. If you hold it, it has the tanum of chazura. That means you have to have in mind, I'm taking it off in order to put it back. I have to make sure that I don't put it down on the table. It's still on my hands. Then, you could put it back when it's fully cooked. If it's not fully cooked, and you do this thing, you take it off to take some cholent or whatever, then you put it back over Issa Deraisa. You cannot put it back. The same will also be, you put on a pot of cholent on the fire with a blech, and you take off the cover because you want to see if it's boiling, if it's cooking. You want Shabbos in the morning, you should have a good cholent. So you want to see at night. You're curious. You want to see if it's boiling good. Since it is not fully cooked, by covering the cover, what do you do when covering the cover? You're making that basically it should cook faster, better. You're over the rice, according to the Rambam, which we pass, or even more. Friday night, you have a blech, you have a fire, you have the soup on the fire, and you have the cholent right next to it. Main on the fire, most of the fire is the soup, because you want it at night, it should be hot. A drop of the fire is cholent. Once you ate the soup, the Shabbos, now you want that the cholent it's cooking, it's boiling, it's amachai, it's armat fest. But you want it to be on the fire, because then, it's a geschmack. You're over for ised reise. Why? Because you're makarav b'shiloi. Anything which you do, which is makarav b'shiloi, means you make it closer to cook. If it wasn't cooked fully, you're over for ised reise. Although it's half cooked already. The whole is half cooked. Once it's finished, cooked, it's perfect. And then you open up the pot. And then if you take off cholent, you want to put it back, it's not a problem. If it has a blech. Why? Because it's fully cooked. Although that from tonight till tomorrow morning, it's going to become much better. That's called mitztamag v'yufloi. But since it is fully cooked, Bishul nisbashal kol tzarachoi, it's not an issue. Nisbashal kol tzarachoi is a problem. Whenever it's not nisbashal kol tzarachoi, you do any pa'ula, and people do not realize this. People do not realize it is a ised rice. If you do any pa'ula, it should become closer to finish. So therefore, Aitze Toive Kumashmalan, and this is why I heard from my rabbis, they used to say always, you always have to make sure when it comes to Zman, everything is fully cooked. Everything is fully cooked because not, it's very easy, because we are all curious. We all like to see after the middle of Shabbos how the cholent cooks. You want a good cholent. And you open up the pot and you look in, and once you cover it, you're already because it's not nisbashal kol tzarich. Even though it's already nisbashal kamacha ben resua, according to the Rambam, again, machlokes rishonim, according to the Rambam, which the mechaber paskins like that. So therefore, you cannot do it. It has to be fully cooked. What do you want to say? The what?
Fully cooked is the way that you usually eat it.
That's the way how you eat it. That's the way how you eat it. What?
The derech to eat the cholent on the Shabbos morning, right?
Yeah.
Everything that's still not fully cooked.
It is fully cooked. All fully cooked. A lot of people give for the children from Friday, for Toyameu, Erev Shabbos for the children. That means it's fully. It is only the longer it gets, it becomes better. It becomes geschmacker. The stomach beautiful. That's not easy. That's okay. So, but no, because you don't eat cholent Friday night. This only it's only became in America. This whole minig, we'll see soon. It's only a new American minig or akapunam. Maybe today's day, it's a sort of batam America that you ate the cholent from Friday night or buchram yeshiva. So, but people don't eat it because they eat cholent in the morning, but that's not fully cooked. If that's the way which a normal person would eat it, that means fully cooked. But when it is not fully cooked, it's hard, beans are still hard, or a piece of steak is still hard. Sometimes the beans are fine, but you put in a piece of steak, that steak takes longer to become, and it's not fully cooked. Once you make any pa'ula, it should become closer to become good. You're over ised rice. Therefore, always you have to make sure that when it comes Shabbos, it's fully cooked. Or put it on top, and don't touch it till you take it off Shabbos in the morning.
Technically, you're allowed if it's fully cooked.
What?
You're allowed to take off the cover if it's fully cooked.
If it's fully cooked, you're allowed to do it. Yeah. Take off the cover and put it back. Yeah, it's not a problem. What?
When is a steak considered conservative? Rare, medium?
No, steak when it's done. Well done means the stomach viewfully. But it's edible. Most of the people will eat it even if it's not burned.
It's for Shabbos to make it even a little better?
The what?
The Isser for Shabbos, we say, is
No. If it's cooked, even though it becomes better, it's not a Isser. Mistamach viewful is not a Isser. That's what I'm saying. If it's
cooked at least halfway, or
no, if it's fully cooked, this is what I'm saying. If it's only halfway, you over Isser deraisa. If it's fully cooked, and although it's becoming more gishmaker, a cholent becomes every hour better, that's okay. But if it's not fully cooked, this is exactly what I'm trying to bring through.
salmon is always okay, yeah?
Why okay, always?
Salmon, you put a raw salmon on the fire.
No.
It has to be cooked Erev Shabbos.
The same thing. If not, yeah, everything.
You can eat salmon raw.
So it has nothing to do with it. You can eat it. This is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Not with the lid, not with the lid. Are you allowed?
I don't know what.
The problem is Erev Shabbos, yeah?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to put the salmon Erev Shabbos, mamish, to start cooking? Mamish, 1 minute before his mom.
Of course not. That's a different halacha. You're going to a different halacha. Of course you can't.
5 minutes before his mom.
No, you can't. It has to be cooked. Before Shabbos. Eine Sache, which you didn't get wrong, Miss Probably you did have. You have a blech in your house?
Left, meaning the hot plate.
Hot plate?
Yeah.
Okay. So in such a case, when you put a hot plate, since you did grifik tima, which it's whatever, it's covered. You cover the knobs. You have a knob? No knob, no nothing. In such a case, okay, there's a few kinds of hot plates. The hot plate which has knob. If in such a case it doesn't have no knob, if it doesn't have any knob, then you have no issue of putting on if it's not fully cooked. Whenever you say you have a problem of putting on something which is not fully cooked before Shabbos, that's only when it's not covered. It's not grifik tima. If it's grifik tima, it's not a problem. You still have the problem of Bishul if you open up the lid. If you open up the lid, you still have the problem of Bishul. But the problem of putting it on top right before Shabbos, it's only when there is no blech. When you have no blech, then the problem is, then they have a problem. You have no blech. Then you're going in the Shabbos. You might be going to the it should be ready for that night. What is the problem? Let me just explain it. What is the problem? You have salmon, you could eat it raw, but I want to eat it cooked. Why is the problem that if you put it, it's not Macham-Av, it's a problem? So to them the Gemara, because we are afraid that since he wants to eat it at night, and it's not, even if it's halfway baked, but he wants to eat it at night, so he's going to do a pa'ula to be Makarav B'shiloi. So, Makarav B'shiloi. Speed it up. So therefore, we say, if it's not Kamachem and Resua, it's also to put on the fire for Shabbos. It has to do with water too. Somebody puts out the hot water kettle right before Shabbos. If it is not a kettle which there's no dials, but if it has any dials, you cannot drink that water in Shabbos. The what? No. No, also not. How could you do that? Because not because of the Shabbat. The problem is, again, any food has to, in order to be able to use it on Shabbos, has to be cooked halfway. Halfway has to be cooked before Shabbos. Why? Because if not, I'm afraid I want a tea and it's not all the way hot. I'm going to take off the Shabbos board and put it somewhere, The only exception is a big piece of meat. Piece of meat is something else, because the Gemara says why? Because Bisra the Torah needs a long time. It won't be done at night. It always is going to be done only tomorrow for the morning Seder. Till the morning Seder, in any case, is going to become cooked. So therefore, in such a case, it's not a problem. So in such a case, if you have a piece of cholent which is not fully cooked, it's not Macham-Av cooked. So you cannot put it on Erev Shabbos. It's awesome. But you still want to have cholent for tomorrow morning. If you take out a piece of steak, you put it in right before Shabbos, it solves the problem. Because now you have put it in meat. If a person has a cholent, which is not Kamachem and Rasul when it comes to Zman. What? The potatoes, the beans, whatever. Now you have a problem, you cannot put it on the fire. You just gechapt. You take out meat, put it in, but again, you cannot open the lid, you cannot move it till Shabbos in the morning. There's two different halachas. Moving means closer to the fire. Moving it closer to the fire, you're going to have a problem. You do. In hot place also, you do where it's close. If you know where it's close, this you have a problem. You don't move it. So put it on top, don't move it. You cannot close the fire. You could take it off, you could schlep it out away from the fire, but again, you cannot pick it up and schlep it away because that's it. Once you put it down is a problem. You could schlep it away. So again, holding it and having a mind to putting it back is only a chazura, which is a separate halacha. No, you cannot do it. It has to be halfway cooked. Yes?
So meat.
Yeah.
Either has to be hash or raw.
Yeah, but you have to put it right before the zman. If you put it in 50 minutes before, it's still a problem. Because by the time...
Now the crack pot on the lower setting, it's going to be raw. But, you can't crack it and warm up.
It's going to still be raw?
It can be raw. A crack pot, you put on the lower setting, it's going to be raw.
You put the lid on and you go.
So then, but it has to be, but even a crack pot, you cannot do that. You cannot do it only when you put in a piece of meat.
Right, put a piece of meat.
Piece of meat, then.
As long as it's raw.
As long as it's raw, Shabbos comes, that's fine. Yeah.
You put a chalent on, you make sure it's cooked before Shabbos, or you put it up with enough time so it should be cooked before Shabbos. Friday night, you take it off, make yourself a bowl, put it back in the fire, and then you're eating it, and you taste some hard beans. Does that mean you can't eat the chalent all Shabbos?
Oh, this is the Shabbos. So you're asking, that means all the beans are hard, or there are some beans are hard?
Every 2 spoons, you taste the hard bean.
Okay, so now we're going in a different halacha, which, again, it's a whole shmiz, which I want one day to talk. I had once a shayla. A lady, right before the zman, threw in, it was after the shki already. It was cooked, the children were fully cooked. But she realized that she kicked us, her minig is, or because of diet, or because of taste, or because of, I don't know, she's told by her parents, that she puts into the cholent squash. Into the cholent. Everything was full cooked, but she put it a raw squash. And it was after the shki already. So do we have a shalaf and Bishul. So she came and asked the question, can I eat the whole cholent or not? And the answer is, you could eat the whole cholent except of the squash. The squash, you take the squash you cannot eat, and the taste which goes in from the squash into the beans, wait bottle. It's wait bottle. It goes, it becomes bottle. Over here, if you have one bean, nochmal, is er to overgehen.
Why is it not once in a while 1 bean, 2 beans?
Zoek ik er, bij eten, zelfs de een bean, als de getina is er. Because when you put it back, has to get him a bean which is not fully cooked. The iser is a iser. The only question is no, it's a wet bottle. It's a wet bottle. Your question, answer the question, can I eat the shaman? Yes, because it's wet bottle for andere Sachen. It's wet bottle. But other than bittel, it's a problem. So therefore I'm saying, do not take cholent Erev Friday night, only when you know for sure it's fully cooked. If you took it out before Shabbos, you tasted it, or you ate it to a meyu, or you gave for your children, it's fully cooked, then you could. The bad thing is, don't take out on Friday night at all. Because not because I'm not talking about fresarai. I'm talking poshet. Don't mess around. It's always kedai to understand. It's always kedai not to mess around with the blech, the food on Shabbos. Because like this, you never know if it is cooked, if it's fully cooked, not fully cooked. You mess it, if you're taking it off, you forget. Once you know, I'm putting it on the fire, I'm taking it off when I need it, and other than that, I'm touching it. That's something else.
If it's fully cooked, you could move it closer?
You could move it closer. Once it's fully cooked, you can move it closer. Another thing which is do, I don't want to go in now, but I'm going to get in Mitchum next week. Once you put in bones, chicken bones, you have another problem. The chulun could be fully cooked. But the chicken bones makes a problem. But again, we'll go into the depth of Machlokes Zwischen Shlomo Zalman.
Which case of the kettle you said that you could put it last second?
There are kettles which has no button.
Mine has no
You only plug it in.
Plug it in and push it down.
So there's no. In such a case, has no problem.